Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined Brigadier William Bishop as he's displaced through time and arrives at episode 435. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Oh, recovering.
How you feeling?
I have to apologize to our listeners that we're getting out so late this week, and we skipped last week because I had lower back issues and was flat out on my back for 3 days last week. Then Sean and Mel were getting ready to go out of town, so we just called off last week, and then all gearing up to record yesterday, and then I got some sort of stomach bug. So I'm feeling better now. My back's returned back to having issues after kind of thinking it was over with for the weekend, but I'm getting along now. So
you don't have a cane with you, so that's.
I don't. No, I'm still not. Yeah, last week I would have had. Last week I couldn't even walk with a cane. I couldn't walk at all.
Wow,
it was bad.
Would you like one?
It was. Yeah, I've got one actually, but no, I ended up at the doctor on Tuesday, and that was just a chore to get there. We considered calling an ambulance to get me somewhere. Yeah, it was bad.
Oof, that is rough.
Me rolling like a ball down the stairs. But yeah, I'm back. I'm bouncing back now. So I did get a lot of stuff watched.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, when you're flat out in your back, you have nothing else to do.
That's true.
You watch a lot of movies. I'm going to do a brief rundown because I watched a bunch of stuff. Let me go all the way back. I finally got around to watching Dumbo. We went out a couple weeks ago and saw it in the theater at the Dollar Theater.
And how was it?
And it was enjoyable. It's cute. It's not not the greatest quote unquote live action film, but I kind of like what they did with it. The changes were nice, and everybody did a good job. So I enjoyed it. Watched Tag with the one with the guys, the adults playing tag. That's a fun movie.
Isn't it fun?
I had no idea what to expect in that film, but it is fun. It gets a little raunchy and silly at times, but it's a lot of fun. Then I watched Life After Flash, which is the Sam Jones documentary. Really good. It's interesting. I learned a lot of stuff about that. Gave me a new appreciation for Sam L. Jones. That I sometimes you see one thing about somebody, just the persona that they have, and then when you find out more about their life, you kind of go, okay, that makes sense. So it was enjoyable.
I actually just nabbed that one from the library.
It's streaming on Amazon Prime now.
Oh, is it?
Saw it. Yeah,
All
it must have just dropped on because it was on my list recently. I watched Murder Mystery on Netflix, which is an Adam Sandler flick, which it was okay. It was middle of the road. It was better than a lot of Adam Sandler films. I'm not a big fan of Adam Sandler films, but it was...
The trailer intrigued me enough that I added it to my watch list.
You really kind of feel like Sandler and Jennifer Aniston are ad-libbing a lot of it, because at times it feels awkward, but it also, in another sense, it feels a bit natural, too, the way they play it off. So Sandler's characters gets a little bit to get used to, but I think it was appropriate for the role, so... I watched a documentary called Bathtubs Over Broadway, which is a terrific film. I can't remember the band's name now. I had it in my head earlier when I was coming over here, but he was the head writer for David Letterman for many, many, many years. He went around and started collecting record albums they could do Dave's record collection on the show. It was just this gimmick. It was a gig. But he started finding all these what are called industrial albums, and they're albums that were literally produced from these shows that they would have for big companies like Ford and Westinghouse and all these. They would literally produce like these musical shows for their top brass and the people that came to the industry shows every year, like quarterly or yearly shows, and they would release them on albums. And it's this. He described it as the most amazing and largest thing that nobody's ever seen, nobody knows about. And he was right. And he goes around and collects them. It was a fascinating. He got to meet some of the people that actually performed on these, and he talked to one guy that was really integral to a lot of these shows, and kind of gave him the recognition that the guy never would have gotten because nobody knows about these things. So It was really interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I got around to watching Ocean's 8 yesterday, which is good. It has the tone of the Ocean's films, but the stakes don't seem as high in it. So
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed by that, but I enjoyed it. In fact, enough that I think if they did a Ocean's 9 and an Ocean's 10, I think that'd be worthy. That was it. That's about all I watched. We're halfway done with Good Omens, and I think I almost got caught up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think I'm one behind now. So
I think I'm still one behind also.
did you guys watch anything?
Yes.
You had to go to your list.
I had to go to my list too. We went out and saw Toy Story 4.
How was it?
It straddles that line between it was good, but it wasn't great.
It was good, but didn't need to be made.
And it didn't. It really did not need to be made. Yeah, I mean, it was an enjoyable movie, but I don't know. I really felt like it. The fact that it had 8 different screenwriters was kind of apparent because it kind of felt like it meanders through several different stories, and they couldn't necessarily nail down which one they wanted to do. It's still an enjoyable watch because these characters are so compelling that you want to be back in that universe for a little bit. But 3 is such a nice capstone ending that do we really need this one? I don't know. I'm frustrated with that. We went and saw The Dead Don't Die, the Jim Jarmusch directed Bill Murray, Adam Driver zombie movie. I've only ever seen one other Jim Jarmusch movie.
Which other movie did he do?
Well, he's done several, but the one I've seen was Dead Man, the Johnny Depp black and white Western.
Oh, okay.
Which I did not enjoy at all. And had I known this was a Jim Jarmusch film, I probably would have skipped it.
Didn't like it, huh?
There are moments that are great. There are some really, really funny bits, and it's a slow burn. It's much, much more in the vein of a Romero zombie film than Shaun of the Dead. So if you're expecting a raucous comedy, then don't do that. But it's also super bizarre, as I understand most of his movies are. So if you like his stuff, you'll probably really enjoy this one. If you don't like his stuff, don't bother because it's just weird. We saw Men in Black International, which kind of had the same Toy Story vibe. It was fun to be back in that universe for a bit, but ultimately unnecessary, which is really kind of a shame because there were moments that made me go, wow, I really did miss this universe. I didn't think that I would. But then there was a lot of it that just laid there and didn't do anything, even with the great chemistry between Hemsworth and Thompson. So that was a little disappointing. I watched one called Operation Finale, which has Oscar Isaac and Ben Kingsley. It's the hunt for Adolf Eichmann, the guy who was responsible for the final solution in World War II.
Oh, yeah.
Some very powerful acting, and unfortunately some severe pacing issues with the plot kind of destroy everything that the actors do. It's not set up well. And then my final 2 are much higher recommendations. We watched Welcome to Marwen, the Steve
really?
Carell.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Really? It's been gotten panned by critics.
Yeah, and I can see why, because it's one of those movies that I imagine they made it and then they turned it in and the marketing department went, what the hell do we do with this? Because it's a dramatic movie about this true event, about a hate crime, and this guy that literally had his memory beaten out of him and suffers from post-traumatic stress syndrome and, kind of copes with it by living in this fantasy world with his action figures and his dolls. And Robert Zemeckis, being Robert Zemeckis, he takes those fantasy moments and turns them into kind of a pseudo-animated G.I. Joe cartoon. And it's part comedy, part action adventure, part drama. It's this whole ball of, I have no idea how to classify it. But it was really, really good. And Steve Carell, wow. I knew he was good. I've seen him in a couple things and I've really enjoyed him, but he continues to show me that, no, he really can act. And I kind of forget that in between films. But it really was amazing. We really enjoyed it. And then we went and saw Yesterday.
Oh.
How was it?
Not as great as I would have kind of maybe built it up in my head to be, but super enjoyable.
Is it?
It's just
That's
a
another
feel-good
one that the
movie.
critics are kind of tearing down.
Yeah.
I got a little worried about it.
Yeah,
Because I was the same way. I built it up in my head after you showed it to me. And
it's just, obviously you have to enjoy the Beatles music,
right.
but it's got a nice little message to it.
Right.
Look, is there anything in this that? No, I'm good. Yeah, just. So I guess in some regards you could kind of compare it to Bohemian Rhapsody. Is there anything? You've seen the trailer. You know exactly what you're getting into. There are no surprises with this film. But if you enjoy that premise, you're going to walk out of here and say you had a good time. So
Well, that's how most Richard Curtis movies are, though.
yeah, and
I mean, you
that's the
kinda go
thing is
into it knowing what it's going to be.
it does not hit the highs of Love Actually or even About Time, which I really really liked. So I don't think it's as good as either one of those, but it's still an enjoyable, fun, just feel good movie. And then we also are the halfway point of Good Omens.
Keith, did you see anything?
Nope. You guys watched all those movies, and I didn't.
You're
watch
busy
anything.
replacing electrical boxes and
Air conditioning,
air conditioners.
and having my sister come in to town last weekend, and then Gemma's birthday this weekend, and it's been busy.
How was that? I feel bad that we couldn't be there since Mel and I were at a conference.
The party wound up being a kind of an intimate soiree, but she had fun, so that's all that matters.
Good.
She still got distracted and lost interest in presents near the end, so she blew out her own candle, though.
Oh, wow.
So that was good. Yeah, and today was her actual birthday, and we had a lot of fun just doing stuff Gemma would want to do. So,
And she's 2 now, right?
she is 2. We got got the pool out, and she got a water table for her birthday. So we've been outside a lot since Saturday.
I bet.
As if we weren't outside a lot to begin with.
It's been the right weather for it, though.
Yeah,
so.
we remembered that we were storing a little canopy tent type thing, one of the, just blue tops and the legs in our basement, and pulled that out and put that up to cover the pool up, so not as much sunlight on there.
Shade, yeah.
Got a nice little backyard oasis for her.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we move on to news?
Lots of news. Well, 4 big pieces in my opinion. The biggest being they've announced the next Blu-ray set. If you cast your mind back to 2 weeks ago, the day after we recorded.
The day after we recorded our last one.
That's how it works.
Season 23, also known as The Trial of a Time Lord. Coming out on Blu-ray.
Well, interesting that they picked that particular season for Colin Baker, but it is completely encapsulated, so.
I think it makes sense. It's divisive among fans, so there's a lot of people that like it and a lot of people that don't. But it is kind of a nice one big story of here you go.
True.
And it's kind of, for those who haven't seen it, you can promote it as this big epic, trial and, all that stuff. Depending on who you're targeting, I suppose.
That is true. What else?
The End of Time is going to be shown in theaters for its 10th anniversary.
Isn't that crazy?
10 years.
10 years it's been.
August 7th of Fathom Events. It will also feature a brand new interview with David Tennant, in which he reflects on his time in Doctor Who and all that has come since.
You started that sentence and my brain translated a brand new ending, and I got really excited.
A brand new interview.
I think it needs a brand new beginning, a brand new middle, and a brand new ending for me to go see it. But
Unlike Endgame.
Right.
Here's an added scene with the Hulk. We didn't finish the animation. Ta-da!
Other news, as part of Big Finish's 20th anniversary, they are going to stream 20 hours of their audio on the official Doctor Who YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like the Twitch marathons, and they're going to have a schedule that will be coming out soon, so you can dip in and watch what you want, or listen to what you want, on the 20th and 21st. And it's going to range from all sorts of things, including, I believe, some stuff starring Alex Kingston. So possibly some Diary of a River Song.
I believe that I did see that there's some Diary of a River Song on that.
So you'll have to keep an eye out and see what the official schedule is once it comes out.
Yeah.
But it will also debut the first episode of the Legacy of Time, their big 20th anniversary release. Will debut in this streaming schedule.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
Not just Legacy of Time, but the whole streaming idea of that. I approve of that.
What a great way to get new people into Big Finish.
Yep.
Nice, easy, accessible way to listen to the audio.
And side note, I found my Fire Stick and my remote
Oh,
Hey.
and plugged it in and immediately went and set up my Pluto TV. So
Yeah.
I've got the Doctor Who channel all ready to go now. So
Nice. Have you watched anything on it?
I watched about 5 minutes of Robots of Death the other day.
Nice.
I got turn it on and just have it playing in the background sometimes.
The last bit of news I have, it also comes from Big Finish, and Character Options are making some Dr. Dalek sets from Big Finish stories.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
That looks pretty cool.
So
Now, see, that was the big news. You should have led with that.
end with the big news. There's going to be 3 unique Dr. Dalek twin packs, one of which will be the 8th Doctor in his blue leather jackets.
And it is a gorgeous sculpt.
Yes.
It's a really cool looking figure.
And the Dalek, I think, looks really cool, too. It's a blue and silver thing called the Dalek Interrogator Prime. There will also feature a 7th Doctor one and a War Doctor one.
Yeah.
So
How much you want to bet it's a special weapons Dalek?
They've done that. I think it's going to be something completely different.
How much you want to bet it's a special weapons Dalek?
You should bet him because I think you're right.
Yeah.
That'll be something different.
It's going to be something from Big Finish,
Right.
Sean.
How much you want to bet it's a special weapons Dalek?
Special Weapons Dalek 2.
Yes. The extra special weapons Dalek. That's also really exciting when we get a new War Doctor action figure. Because right now, the only thing we have is from Day of the Doctor.
Yep. It's pretty cool. Cool stuff. More stuff that I would want to buy but can't afford.
Right? There might be other news out there, but there was
I'm sure
2 weeks worth of stuff.
We'll release a Blu-ray release tomorrow, news release tomorrow.
Did you guys see the trailer for John Pertwee's season that they're doing? The new trailer that came out? It's a gorgeous trailer.
I don't
think
It's a nice action-packed, and it's got a song in there for Joe. It's a long trailer. It's just a promotional video, but you know, it's pretty cool. I'd recommend it.
Cool.
We'll have to pull that up later.
All right. Well, should we move on to feedback?
Feedback
Let's.
comes from Jamie.
Jamie writes, "Hi there, Vortexers. Continuing on with my plow through of old episodes. I'm at 110 now. Enjoyed the galley interviews. I wonder which costs more, Mel's Happiness Patrol costume or those of the BBC?" Probably Mel's, quite honestly. It's nice, though, that she's thinking outside the box. The First Doctor Revisited. I enjoyed the special. I agree that they're very bare bones and simple, ideal for brand new viewers or new Who only viewers. I think that the more advanced fans won't get as much out of them, but that doesn't mean don't watch them, because they're still good Doctor Who programming. As for Prisoners of Time, I enjoyed the whole story. I'm enjoying your theories on the matter. Did any of you suspect Adam Mitchell?
Nope.
Nope.
The art is either okay or very good for the 8th Doctor. The art is either okay or very good throughout the series, with the exception of the 8th Doctor issue. I didn't like the art in that one. I suppose with the exception of the Daleks and the Monk, the First Doctor had no recurring villains. The Cybermen didn't really become a recurring villain until Troughton. So having the resurgence of the Web Planet, the only serial I have ever seen in its entirety, never seen in its entirety, is as good a returning villain as any. I'm having trouble reading tonight. Episode 111. So, you report the announced cast members for An Adventure in Space and Time. David Bradley as William Hartnell. You then go on to talk about how much he looks like the First Doctor, and how we now have multi-Doctor stories with him as the First Doctor. Christmas 2017 rolls around, and we get Twice Upon a Time. And then after that, Big Finish starts releasing First Doctor box sets with the cast of Adventures of Space and Time. Do you guys claim credit?
Yes, we do.
Or is this just the natural progression of the initial casting of David Bradley? As with most things, I'm going to claim serendipity and say that
we
that's
made
us.
some calls and said, you know what you guys need to be doing.
The Leisure Hive. It was different compared to what had come before. J&T definitely wanted to distance himself from the jokey, farcical Graham Williams era. I read that he was essentially a mafia story inserted into Doctor Who. It's good, but a bit on the slow side, and not necessarily one of my favorites. Enjoyed the Brighton Beach bits, though. Finally, for this episode, Hunters of Earth. I enjoyed this story, but it's not necessarily a favorite. Your comments on the title, Be Very, Very Quiet, We're Hunting Earths, was great, and should be put on the list for possible best of early days show. Done in the style of the Companion Chronicles, I've listened to all these, save for number 11, The Time Machine. Episode 112 in your annual galley trip sounds like you had a lot of fun. While cons and cosplay aren't my thing, I don't usually mind hearing your adventures, although I skip the updates. So far, every Doctor that you guys have met has sounded wonderful. Both Sylvester and Paul sound like great people. And they are. Finally, episode 113, and a return to the 8th Doctor. The Natural History of Fear. I really enjoy this story. The twist at the end was great. Great acting from the regulars. You were wondering what film it reminded you of and mentioned Tron, which I've never seen. I propose that it also has small ties to Blade Runner, the slow pace and the test for replicants, essentially. Or especially. The biggest outside source that it reminds me of is 1984. It is essentially Doctor Who meets 1984. It's interesting, now that you say that, I can see that, but I hadn't seen 1984 at that point.
We reviewed that later.
The Twilight Kingdom, on the other hand, while a decent enough story, feels like it could just as easily be placed in the normal universe. Still, it's enjoyable and isn't boring. As to your questions on Rassilon and the Time War and Romana's involvement, the answers are in Gallifrey the Time War box sets. That's it for now. Keep up the good work, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
And because we were skipping a week, we're going to go ahead and read off another one. This is also from Jamie. He writes, Hey, Vortexers, episode 114. I like bagpipes. for those of you mentally keeping track of where he's at. Bagpipes are cool. The 11th Doctor should totally get to use bagpipes sometime. Anywho, the Reign of Terror.
No.
I kind of think that of all the things you could give the 11th Doctor, bagpipes would probably be on the top of the list of things he should not have. I watched the version with the animated episodes when I hit this for my watch through. The plot of Reign of Terror was well done, but I don't remember much. I catch a lot of catch and escape, if I recall, although I thought the animation was well done. I've never actually watched a full reconstruction for missing Doctor Who episodes. I might have watched the condensed version of Marco Polo, but for my watch through I watched all the available episodes, and if I came across a missing episode, I'd listen to the audio CD version. The First Doctor, a retrospective. I guess the First Doctor is, well, my least favorite Doctor. It's not that he's a terrible Doctor, although, yes, the dated sexism in Twice Upon a Time seemed very farcical. I like most of his companions, Ian and Barbara, Vicky, Susan, Stephen, Sarah Kingdom, all memorable characters. Ben and Polly are good, but they were with the second Doctor longer. Katerina wasn't a companion long enough, too primitive. She didn't need to be if you look at Aramim or Jamie, and was therefore written out exceedingly fast. And that leaves Dodo, who's kind of the odd one out because so many of her stories are missing. I've heard that her accent varies scene to scene, and she's just kind of there. I guess the First Doctor is my least favorite because he's the grumpy old man. The one gets involved the least. He's in black and white. Not that that's a bad thing. He's just not as memorable as, say, the fourth or the seventh Doctors. He doesn't have the mischievousness of the second. He isn't loud and unavoidable like the sixth. And he doesn't have a huge audio presence either. But yes, he's the first, and without him, we wouldn't have Doctor Who. I don't know, I just can't really place it. I really like 10. He's fun, a joy to be around. I really like 8. He's got that love of adventure and discovery. I followed him through Big Finish. The dark and scheming 7th Doctor I like. Just having so many lost episodes really hurts the First Doctor. He's antiquated. He doesn't have that overpowering presence that you get from the Bakers. Yes, he has an excellent story arc from grumpy old man who kidnaps people to the kindly grandfather who fears being alone. And he has some really good stories from time to time. I just don't know. I like all the Doctors, but he's the one who falls into the background with so many more that overshadow him. Which story best exemplifies this incarnation? Well, I agree with Sean in his comments about the Dalek invasion of Earth. I can see Keith's points in his pick, Keys of Marinus. I'm not sure I agree that this is the best representation of the First Doctor. Wow, Glenn, a really good breakdown. You really thought this out and broke it down well. I'd have to agree with at least part of your pick, the Time Meddler. For mine, well, I'd have to pick one of 3, and I just don't know if I could break it down any more than that. The Aztecs, the Time Meddler, and the War Machines. Here you see the authoritarian grandfather and Time Lord in the Aztecs. You can't rewrite history, not one line. You get the mischievous, playful First Doctor in the Time Meddler, and you see the defender of the innocent in the War Machines. Out of curiosity, now that you all have so much more Who under your belt, only 4 stories of his that you haven't covered at this point, would you change your pick for the quintessential First Doctor story? What are your thoughts on this 6 years down the line? Have your views changed at all? I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on this. Jamie.
I'm not sure that I would change my mind, because I think the Time Meddler still lands there in the middle, giving us the best of both sides of the Doctor. No, I don't think I would change my mind.
I don't know if I would either. Although I think now I'd put Galaxy 4 kind of up there as far as Doctor characterization goes, because he's taking a side and he's a bit more interested in what's going on in that. But the rest of the story is kind of so I don't know.
Yeah, we've certainly had some good First Doctor episodes that we've reviewed since then, and I could argue that there are some contenders. As you point out, Galaxy 4, the Dalek Master Plan was certainly a good one and showcased a lot of elements of the First Doctor that I really like, but I don't know that I would change mine either. I still kind of feel that the Dalek Invasion of Earth, because it came first. Well, obviously the Daleks came first, but we've got the chasm. I just can't.
You can't get over the chasm.
I can't get over the chasm.
Neither could they.
Oh, and the award for terrible joke goes to.
I put the Crusade up there pretty high too.
Ooh.
I like that
that's
one
a
lot.
good one.
I'd put that high in the historical.
It's a good movie, or it's a good story. I don't know that it's.
Yeah, I don't
think it is quintessential First Doctor, though. I don't think it's his best representation of the character.
See, and I'm thinking through all of his stories, and I don't really know if there is a quintessential, because he goes through so many phases.
Yeah.
I think probably choosing 3, like Jamie did, is a good way to do it.
That's probably true, yeah. Maybe we'll revisit that as an episode again. Step through all the Doctors again.
How about one of the ones where he's on holiday? That would probably be.
Well,
that's probably most representative.
That's got to be one of the stories. He's got to be on holiday during that story.
One of each story, at least one.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
I also wanted to give a shout out to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast. He actually gave us a shout out on his last show. Somebody had asked who some of his favorite podcasts and who he listened to and recommends are, and we made the list. So,
oh my,
hey.
Yeah, thanks again to him for the shout out. And if there's anybody that has discovered us because of Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast, welcome.
Yeah,
I shall have to check out Theta Sigma.
All right, I've been listening to him for a while. So,
have you?
Yep, he's pretty good. He's very knowledgeable, and he really kind of breaks things down really well. In fact, I learn a few things from him every once in a while. He'll have a nugget that I didn't realize.
Oh, well, then I will learn a lot. If he's teaching you things, my God.
All right, should we move on to our review?
Lethbridge-Stewart The Laughing Gnome, The Dangerman. He's a man on a mission, but he has no idea what the mission is. It's 1999. Bill Bishop is plunged into a world of intrigue as he inhabits the body of Callum Bence of Department M, a.k.a. The Dangerman, on the trail of millionaire entrepreneur and suspected super spy Dieter Allegro. But is Allegro really the bad guy he's made out to be? And who is the mysterious Otto Di Candida? And why is he so interested in the contents of a certain CD-ROM? As he seeks these answers, Bill can't help but wonder, will he ever find Anne and the Brigadier? Will he ever return to 2011? Or is he destined to be lost in time forever? Join Bill in his borrowed body as he travels from Johannesburg to London to Torquay and Austria in his mission Impenetrable. On his mission Impenetrable.
Sean?
Bum, bum, bum.
I had a lot of fun reading this story.
I did too.
I had fun reading this story too.
I sense a but coming.
It's not a good story.
Oh.
It has everything that I should like about a book. It's very James Bond. It's very Quantum Leap.
Mm-hmm.
It makes reference to Doctor Who the movie.
Which, let's be
crying
honest,
out loud.
It gains a full star just for that, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Ensuring that the movie takes place.
It's William Bishop, who I love. It's espionage and intrigue, and it continues to fall on its face through the whole story. You get into a situation where you've got Bill in this really classic, unique spy thriller situation, and he's thwarted at the beginning, dropped into a situation which I think he cleverly works his way in immediately, being disoriented as he is and not knowing where he's at. He really pulls it off, even to the point where he's captured by Sonia. Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Sophia.
Sophia.
Yes, Sophia. I believe that's right. It's been a few weeks since I finished this book, so I think actually it's like June 13th, I think, is when I finished it. So even when he's thwarted by her, tied up, he manages to get away. I think he does a good job of pulling off the Stella, that's it. The amnesia thing, just fumbling through the whole thing at Department M, I thought was clever. I thought they did a really good job, although I think there was a bit of luck involved and happenstance as well. But I think Bill handled that really well. And then they set up this mysterious
Otto.
Let's call him Otto. They set up Otto. And that's intriguing, and I wonder where they're going to go with that. And then we go off to... It's really, really enjoyable and fun when we go off to the, he gets put in the psych ward, basically, the rest home for a while. And, the Sir, these names are escaping me. The head of Department M comes to him. Sir Gerard. He sends him on this little secret mission off the books, to go infiltrate and get this information. And he goes off to the conference and, almost gets caught, but gets released. And then they decide they want to go get the disc, and he gets Vic, and they sneak into the compound, and they get captured and taken to Lego. And that's all great. And it's in fact, it's all really good up until the escape from there, when they tie Stella up in the closet. And then it just falls apart from there. It just becomes a run away. You don't know what's going next. And then we have this really weird thing where you think he's been shot, and then he wakes up as Stella. And I think, okay, what is this? First of all, this has not happened in any of the Laughing Gnome.
Right.
So kudos to them for trying this. So then I'm building up in my mind, well, this is great. This will be, if he's Stella in the whole rest of this book, and he has to try to figure out how to get this disc that way now that Cullum's got it back. He's successful in the mission as one, and now he's lost it again. I thought, what a great idea. It's so intriguing. Where's this going to go? Only to find him track down Cullum and force him to push him off a bridge so he jumps back into Cullum. That was weird. And it felt like It felt like they went one direction and decided, I don't know what to do with this, and so they sent it back the other way. And just the whole, I did like the surprise of the fact that Allegro really isn't really doing anything anymore. He's really doing good. Bill sympathizing with him. This all just being a jealousy ploy by Sir Gerard. It falls flat because then there's no intrigue. It's all kind of happenstance. There's a nice moment in the diner towards the end where he ends up getting to meet, or he ends up seeing the younger versions of Lethbridge-Stewart himself and Anne, but it was completely unnecessary because they make the point at the beginning that he remembers this guy's name, and it's almost like it was a payoff just to be a payoff. If it had been, there had been some connection. Had it been, it was nice that he gave Sir Alistair a bolstering talk or something to bolster him up when he's on the kind of the downs now because he's not being reinstated. But it felt unnecessary. And then we've got this intriguing Otto guy who I'm really fascinated by, and I'm hoping that we didn't get much because it's something for another story that they're playing their cards closer to the chest. So that's intriguing and interesting, but it felt like Bill, some mysterious guy that he sees on an overpass several times and beats him to a service station where he's going to have lunch, sits down and tells him, I need you to get this disc to me. And he just, because it means the end, it'll save the end of the world. And he's like, okay. And it just seemed like he
didn't take much convincing.
Yeah, he went by it really too quick for me. So that's where I thought the first time it kind of fell on its face. I'm kind of backtracking here, but it's just, there were little things where I really kind of felt like Bill was mastering the craft. And then there was some times where it felt like Bill was just kind of stumbling along, hoping to get lucky, get the next lucky break. And so it just kept bouncing back between that. So I kept feeling like that Bill's building up to this great potential in this story, and then every time he builds up to some great potential, it's a bit of almost writer cheating luck, to get him out of a scrape or get him away from a situation, and we go to that interrogation thing that Allegra has with the sphere that he ends up, and I thought, okay, this is something. This is big and intriguing. What device does this guy have that he's able to? And then they drop it there, and which made it even worse. That when Bill's saying this is just a jealousy issue. You've got this personal vendetta against Allegro, and that's really the guy's just doing great things. The guy practically tortured you to find out what you knew
with
and
some
who you
weird
were.
Advanced technology.
With some
that
weird
he
advanced
shouldn't have
technology.
had.
Exactly. So not only does he have the plans for a beryllium clock, which he happened to just accidentally end up with. I was okay with that, but now he has advanced tech that, yeah, sure, the guy's he's got a Fortune 500 medical technology company at his fingertips, and he's a billionaire who can probably afford advancements in technology. But for $19.99, this is still way too advanced tech for this guy to have his pretty much record to be clean, other than the fact that he did sell some secrets back in the day. But now you're just gonna let that go? I don't know. The book's very uneven. It's fun. I enjoyed it. It was a fun ride, but the book's very uneven, and it made me struggle with a lot of those things that didn't take me out of the story, but made me kind of second guess, what are you trying to do here with this book? So
the biggest disappointment I had was the fact that while I appreciated the fact that Allegro wasn't the actual villain, that all of this was really for no reason.
Right.
I mean, we take Otto at his word that getting the beryllium chip or the clock,
the plans for the beryllium,
clock, would cause a big problem otherwise. But I mean, there's no. I I expected some sort of turnaround where, okay, well, Sir Gerard's really this big evil mastermind that we've been working for the bad guy this whole time. But it didn't even go there. It was just jealousy. And it's like, well, then why did we spend all of this time and all this intrigue about this character and this CD-ROM when it really doesn't matter that much?
The book continues to have you looking for the big twist. And while it has a lot of subtle twists, there's no big twist in the story.
Yeah. Or big stakes, really. I mean, other than Otto's word that, if the clock doesn't happen, it's going to be the end of the world.
Right. Stella's a bit intriguing. She's a good villainess.
She was a great character,
but again, missed opportunity when Bill leaps into her and is,
I was very disappointed that we switched back so quickly.
We're able to take this story in a really intriguing direction now and just drop it.
You're both not wrong. They're wow. I liked the middle chunk a lot. That for me was probably the most fun. I felt like we were spinning our wheels a lot at the beginning. With Bill spent so much time on his back foot with being dropped into this heist, and then being beaten up, and then being nearly set on fire, and trying to play catch up, and then going to the Dangerman meeting and the department, and then the scene that's right out of Never Say Never Again, the old folks home with the spies, and then the infamous, well, I'm going to put you on this mission, and it's off the books, and you're working for me, and nobody knows about it. It's like, oh, okay, you're the bad guy. That's the classic. Yeah. You're the bad guy. Nobody knows about this, and you're going to be working for me. Totally, you're the bad guy. So I kept waiting for that reveal, and it never came. It never really showed up.
He needed better motivation than jealousy.
Yeah, it just. So, and then we get some really weird on the highway with the driving, and the guy keeps reappearing, but then that doesn't really get explained. How can Otto go from overpass to overpass to overpass? At one point, I suspected that maybe it was the Master from the movie.
Actually, I took a different direction. I thought maybe it was the Doctor.
I thought that too.
Because he was so adamant to get the plans back in place because he knows that he has to have the beryllium clock in order to save the world. So,
but the descriptions on when they kept talking about it was like...
It's very Master-like.
It seemed more Master-like than Doctor-like. And then, fun bit of business with Chorley and...
Yeah, I kind of... That was another thing that I felt was a lost interest there was... Chorley gets a cameo, but I kind of wanted more. I wanted him to be able to give more than just a easy way to catch Bill up with some information that he needed. But
yeah, it's frustrating because if you're going to bring Chorley in, he really ought to be used and not just an info dump. But then we get to the fun bit. The adventure mode, the Bond bit. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, just kind of, the leap within a leap. I kind of hate referring to it as a quantum leap term. But
I noticed that I said leap earlier too. But
it's the only way to do it, really. One of the challenges of that I have felt with the Laughing Gnome is because of how these are constructed. We're taking these characters that we know, and we're putting them into these other people, and so that's right out of Quantum Leap. The difference is in Quantum Leap, the reason that Dr. Beckett was in these other people was to use his abilities to change something. And to be in that position specifically to make a difference. And we're still kind of unclear, I feel, at this point, what the purpose of the gnome is.
Right.
But it feels like we keep hamstringing our characters by not allowing them to make use of their gifts.
Well, they need an owl. That's the problem, is that Quantum Leap works because you got Al and Ziggy.
Yeah.
But with this, it's them having to fumble their way through every single time. And really the only one that, to me, has been able to efficiently do it twice is Lethbridge-Stewart. Anne and Bill have seemed to somewhat bungle up their missions that they're on.
Because they also just assume what their mission is. They don't really know.
That, and I think that they both have, because of their, I should say, that this is an interesting way to put this, because it kind of makes Lethbridge-Stewart look not so good, but they have some scruples, and that tends to hold them back.
Ooh, going there, huh?
But Lethbridge-Stewart seems to be the man that will do what needs to be done to get it done. Now,
he
Anne
is
does
the one that bombed the civilization of Silurians under the surface of the earth. I mean,
which obviously that's why he's such a great leader. But he ultimately makes the hard choices where Anne and Bill have both doubted their moves too frequently. And I think that's why it's not working as well with Anne and Bill. Not to mention, I think the other frustrating thing about this story is we from this book, now it qualified the, although I think Andy qualified it for us, but it qualified when you brought up the fact that Bill was the little boy in Fear of the Web, which caught us off guard. We didn't realize that until you pointed that out. But this book even alludes to the fact that he's left one more time.
Multiple
At
jumps
least
that we haven't seen. Yeah.
So, although I think one of them may be a short story we haven't read, which, by the way, we probably should take catalog of our shorts that we've missed.
That's a good point.
So there's probably a short or two in there that we haven't read that maybe would fill in that gap. But so Bill's jumping around a lot so far. We know. I mean, we know that Alistair's jumped at least twice. Mm-hmm. We know but he had one encounter on his own with the gnome. So he justifiably, in justifying it, we've justifiably, as far as a Doyleist perspective of things, we know that he's jumped twice because he's had two instances with the gnome. But it seems like since Anne and Bill have come in contact, their first contact with the gnome, Bill's at least jumped 3 times, or leaped 3 times. So that's intriguing that they've gone there, and we don't know much about that. I think that's a little bit frustrating as well. I think the other thing that I don't like so much about these books are great. I'm enjoying the read. Every one of these have been good. The Laughing Gnome is an interesting concept, but until we get the MacGuffin or the reason why this is happening, the payoff, I think it's going to continue to be a frustration for me. But we're putting these characters, and I applaud them for the attempt to do something different. But so far, we've put these characters in situations that are not very much, to me, within the Lethbridge-Stewart universe. This is such a sidestep from what we've had in the past that it's almost like it's sort of an experiment to keep the series from being stale. And while I think that I appreciate that that's happened, the only one that felt familiar as a Lethbridge-Stewart universe story was maybe Fear of the Web, because it was set in a time that was in that that was familiar to us. So I'm be interested to see what happens because the final book is the Dominator story.
Yeah, Rise of the Dominator.
So I'll be interested to see where they go with that, and perhaps it'll wrap that up. But I kind of hope we're done with the Laughing Gnome and this concept for that story, because it just really doesn't feel like Lethbridge-Stewart universe, even though it's familiar characters and they're still staying true to their nature. Don't get me wrong. It just when they're not all together, it doesn't feel right.
Well, it's frustrating to have a character that you know what they're capable of, and then tie their hands behind their back and not let them do it.
Right.
And you mentioned, the brig kind of having scruples, but
the brig not having
scruples. But you could almost go the other way, because at least in correct me if I'm wrong, but in the first in Scary Monsters, he leaps into a younger version of himself. He just doesn't
Yes.
remember the events.
Correct.
And then he leaps back into himself in Fear of Web.
Yeah, both times he's
So
leapt
both
into
times
himself.
he's
Yeah.
been himself. So
Right.
he's had the agency to do what he could do. Whereas Anne was somebody else. She was not a scientist when she did that. Bill, obviously, okay, he's a man of action here, but he's not
He's a spy, not a soldier.
exactly. So we're still in this unfamiliar territory, and
I think that's the biggest misstep is they've, instead of put them back in their own pasts, they put them back in other people's pasts, and that's where the problem lies.
it definitely creates a weird imbalance, because we it seems like we spend so much time treading on the I can't tread on this guy's life. I have to be careful about setting things like, oh, I accidentally got him fired. I got to fix this, or I can't.
Well, Anne obviously had less scruples than Bill did, because Bill let that woman's life get ruined.
Yeah.
Or Anne let that woman's life get
Yeah.
ruined.
Yeah. No, in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
all
there was-
she,
but there
all
was
she knew
always
is that they
something-
were separated.
There was always something.
She didn't know the details.
There was
but-
something there always holding her back from certain things too, and then she got all un-Anne-like and started. We're not going to revisit that again, man.
But yeah, it just seems unfair to have these great characters and then rob them of their agency by
Yeah.
putting them into these other situations that they really can't do anything about, just because that's the nature of the story. That to me has been the most frustrating thing.
And putting them in situations that don't play to their strengths either. I mean, it's one thing to, have them be in tough situations where they don't know how to overcome it. It's another thing of, oh, I got to go be a spy, but I've never spied. I've only soldiered.
Right,
That's
right.
not fair to
Well,
Bill.
and that's okay to bring that up early on,
Right.
but to continue to use that as an excuse, then it just becomes you're very inept now because you're out of your element. So
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on this book, because I think it's written fairly well, and I did enjoy it. I'm with you. I enjoyed the beginning of this book with the whole Johannesburg situation. I liked the stuff with Allegro and they're kind of in the middle of the book. I agree. That was fun. It was very spy, very James Bondish. It just the things that surrounded those elements just to me fell flat, and I think I wanted more, or wanted the book to go in different directions, and it didn't. And so I think maybe that was just what was maybe more frustrating for me, was that it didn't necessarily. I didn't want it to be a trope. I didn't want to plop him into the world of James Bond and then just use all of the Bond elements that you would expect and make it formulaic, because then it's not enjoyable when you can predict it, or it feels familiar but it's just a different guy. But it just I had some expectations for it that didn't pan out, and I think that I don't want to say the writer was taking some shortcuts, but there were times where it felt like the writer was taking some shortcuts.
All that said, I still really like Bill. Bill
I do.
helped carry me through most of this book.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned his, when he met with Otto, it was just like, oh, okay, I can buy that because it's Bill. If it had been any other character, no, it would not have worked. But because Bill is the science fiction nut.
Lethbridge-Stewart would have been really skeptical of
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah, both Stewart and Anne
yeah.
would not have worked. But because it's Bill, and as much science fiction as he's absorbed, he's the easiest one to kind of go, all right. So that I had no problem. Fate of the world extinct. Okay.
Well, I hope we get some payoff with Otto, why he knows what he knows, especially when he calls him Bill. I literally when he said Senor Bill, or sorry Bill, or Senor Bill, or whatever, and then and he had been calling him Senor Callum's last name,
Benz.
Senor Benz, and then he said Bill, and I stopped before Bill even said, wait, you just called me Bill. I stopped and looked back and said, was that a screw up? And then I read on and went, nope. I thought it was a Doylist screw up,
Right?
and then realized no, it was a Holmes or Watsonian screw up, and it worked for the story. I was like, oh, this got more intriguing now. This guy knows that this is not Callum. Yeah, I hope we get I hope we get more with that. Even if they don't do it in the Dominator's book, is if they at least flesh this out in some of the short stories that they've done in between, I think that would help. And there may be more substance that we're missing out on by not having done some of the short stories, in which is our fault because we've kind of fell down on those. But I'm excited for the next book because it's got Dominators, and likely you're excited because it likely will have Quarks in it again.
Yes.
So we'll see where they're going with it.
I can't wait to see what happens.
Let's just hope everybody gets home safely, because we still don't know if poor Bill got home.
Well, no, he's got to jump to the next book.
Yeah, I immensely love the fact that he left Kellum a note.
Yeah,
in his jacket. I thought that was great.
Bill is ever the gentleman.
Yes.
Well, one has to be when one's a danger man.
Even when he's a lady.
All right, Sean, what we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule, next week we return to Big Finish in celebration of their 20th anniversary with the Diary of River Song. We will be doing the first two stories, The Boundless Sea and I Went to a Marvelous Party. The following week is Signs and the Rules of the Universe, also from the Diary of River Song. The week after that is some Big Finish Companion Chronicles, Frostfire, and Titan Comics, the first volume of the 13th Doctor, and special guest, which I confirmed this week, and I didn't tell you guys, so surprise, Tim. Yay!
We're on Slack. We know that.
Oh, well.
We knew that was coming. We see those messages, Sean.
Yes, I talked to Tim, our cohort from Sci-Fi for Me, Tartar Sauce, and he will be joining us for that episode. So something new to look forward to.
Yes, very cool. We're excited.
Beyond that, if you want to do some additional homework, you may want to start boning up on Sarah Kingdom. We have a companion archive. We'll be looking at the Outlaw Planet, the Destroyers, and Sarah Kingdom Space Security Agent. And I'll let you hunt down what those are. I can't read my notes.
And we'll help the listener out too when we get closer to that if they want to try to track some of those down. Keith, why don't you remind everybody how they can contact us?
Well, you can just go to our website, travelingthevortex.com, and there is a tab that says Send Us Feedback. Just click that, fill out the box, prove you're not a robot, and it will arrive in our email box.
Sean, how can people help us out financially?
Please do not throw hands at me. That's how you prove you're not a robot.
Unless you're a Voss robot, and then we'll accept your feedback.
There you go.
Or canine.
If you'd like to send us some money, we accept all major credit cards, checks, gift cards, credit cards, gift certificates.
Cash.
Cash is king. Cash is really good. Pennies.
Sean, I'm going to cut this from the show. How can they support us?
You can go to our website and click on the Support Us link, which will take you to our Patreon page. Patron members, basically all you have to do is click the donate link and donate some money. We will happily take that. It goes to provide server space and all the technical goings-on that are behind the scenes that I don't quite understand, but it pays the bills, and we appreciate it.
Very good. And don't forget you can subscribe and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, on the Google Play Podcast Store, on Stitcher, TuneIn, and Player FM. Anything else that we need to do before we close this show out? All right, that's going to do it for this time. Until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing ya.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.